It's students are okay.
There's some students are writing to me that they are there. They can't log in.
Okay. So good morning, everybody. Good morning from a sunny Dublin for once. So it's unusual for it to be sunny in December. And we're joined by Sheila Mahon, who is over this side. Hi. Sheila is our international officer, and she looks after students from, I suppose, the time that they confirm that they're to NCI right through to the time that they graduate. Dr. Horacio Gonzalez-Velez heads up the Cloud Centre, so I know most of the students that are coming in January will be for Horacio's courses, which will be Cloud and Data Analytics. And then over in the corner outside of the screen is Jamila Luce, who is overseas. She's our territory manager for emerging markets and Ireland. So many Irish students or international students that are based in Ireland, Jamila will look after them. So I'll hand over to Sheila in a minute, and we'll just go through. There's a presentation which kind of explains some things that are good to know before you come to NCI. Over on your left-hand side of your screen, you'll see there's a Q&A. So if you drag your mouse across the left-hand side, there's a Q&A button. You can type in questions there. We can see it. So what we'll do is we'll answer questions either as we go along, or maybe we'll look at a lot at the end of it. So I'll hand over to Sheila now, and we'll start on the presentation.
Thanks, Richard. Good morning, everybody. And the purpose, obviously, as Richard just said, of today's meeting is to just prepare you all for you arriving in Ireland, and obviously any questions that you might have to help you prepare, we'll be able to answer today for you. So we are introductions. So help you prepare for your arrival. Obviously meet the team who you've just met. We can have a look at NCI. I don't know, do you want to do that now? That they look at?
So there's a short video here that we can have a look at.
Okay, so that video, I suppose, gave you a flavour of what to expect when you arrive in Dublin. The sun was shining there as it is today, but we'll talk a little bit about the weather further down in the presentation. So we're going to talk today about what you need to do to prepare for your arrival here in Ireland and NCI. So from booking your flight through to booking your accommodation, informing NCI when you will be arriving, which is very important. Booking an airport collection if you need one, what to expect at Dublin Airport, medical insurance, a little bit about packing, and what to expect when you arrive. So your journey to Dublin. So when booking your flights, you need to consider the following dates. So the big recommendation is to arrive as early as possible. It's really important that you're allowed, or you give yourself the time to acclimatise and find your accommodation, so that you're ready to start classes straight away without any distractions. So the key dates when you're booking your flights is the latest time to arrive is between the 18th and 20th of January. We're going to be looking at having registration and orientation the 21st and 22nd of January, and classes will commence on Monday, the 25th of January.
Okay, I should have also said before we started, Aritra from Delhi is also joining us. So many of you will have met Aritra at fairs and in agents' offices. So again, Aritra can answer some questions when we get around to the questions section.
Ireland is the centre of the world on this particular map, but you just get a picture here of when you're booking your flight, some of the key hubs that you'll be flying through. So that could be the United Arab Emirates, UAE, or through North America. So you get an idea of the time that you need to allow for your flights. So booking your accommodation, we have an accommodation booklet that gives you up-to-date information on the types of accommodation that are available to you when you arrive in Ireland. We have on-campus accommodation here at NCI, but it's important to note that the accommodation are apartments. It's not hostel type accommodation. So when you're booking accommodation on campus, we have one room available for the January intake. And to secure the room, it's a cost of €2,900 with a €300 deposit. And the room is available from the 20th of January until the 11th of June. So if you want to book that room, it's important that you contact me so that you can only secure the room when you actually pay that fee. So when booking your off-campus accommodation, the same challenges, I suppose, happen for everybody in Ireland, whether you're a student or a professional. Finding the right accommodation in Ireland, in the right location, at the right price, is a big challenge for everybody. So the earlier you arrive and the earlier you start that search, the easier it will be for you. Also, you need to consider, if you're not going to stay on campus, that you will need to actually book short-term accommodation. So you will need to consider booking a hostel or Airbnb or a host family for when you arrive for a period of about 2 to 3 weeks. So that will give you time to search for your more permanent accommodation when you arrive in Ireland. So this slide is giving you an overview of where we are in NCI. So we're in an area called the IFSC, which is the International Financial Services Centre, which is in the Docklands area. It's in Dublin 1, and you're within a 5-minute walk of a lot of big head office, European headquarters for a lot of the big companies like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn. So it's an area that a lot of professionals live in. So when you're considering your accommodation, it may not be possible to live directly within the campus or very near to the campus. So you'll be spreading your search outside of that particular area. So the next slide gives an overview of how Dublin is split up and the different zones, if you like, within the Dublin region. So NCI is in Dublin 1, which is north of the River Liffey, which divides the city. So the general rule of thumb is the bigger the number away from the city centre, the further it is away from the city centre. There are a lot of students that live in the Dublin 1, Dublin 3, Dublin 8 region, and a lot of students have a lot of success in finding accommodation. It is challenging, but it's not impossible. So off-campus accommodation. So you're looking at long-term and short-term options for your accommodation. Really, if you're not staying on campus, the only other option available to you is renting an apartment or sharing an apartment with other students. You will only be able to find and secure that accommodation when you arrive in Ireland. So before you arrive, you will have to book short-term accommodation for your arrival. For that, the options you have are host family. Now there's a website you can go to book a host family, or we have a small number of host families on our database here at the international office, or hostels. You really need to book those for about 2 to 3 weeks because that's how long it will take you to find more secure accommodation. So the booklet is available. It was emailed to all applicants yesterday. If you have not received that email, please contact me and I will send it on to you. It's also available on our website under the international section. So informing NCI when you arrive. See, we have a lovely picture here of Horacio with some of our students celebrating Holly, which was celebrated here at NCI in March. But obviously, one of the biggest things we need to know is when you're going to arrive. So when you book your flight, you must inform NCI when you arrive by completing the student arrival form. That was emailed to all applicants yesterday. Again, it's also available on our website under the international section. If you're staying in private rented accommodation, you should have a contact name and number of the people that you're staying with when you arrive. So this is the student arrival form and booking your airport collection. It's two forms in one. So it's a form to let us know when you're arriving. And the last part of that form is informing us if you wish to have an airport collection. If you do, you need to give us up to 5 days notice so that we can book the driver, and you need to give us your arrival details. Once we have that information, I will email you the name of the driver who will pick you up and meet you at the airport. I will give you a photograph so you will recognize him in the arrivals hall, and you'll also have the driver's contact mobile number. So here's a photograph of the drivers who will meet you, Jake and Tony. We also have some other drivers if they're not available. So if you can complete the booking airport collection form and send it to me, I will then email you the details for the driver who will meet you at the airport. And they'll bring you directly to your on-campus accommodation, or to your accommodation, whether it's on campus or in the Dublin city area. It's important that it's Dublin city. If you book accommodation for some reason with family outside of Dublin in other counties, we won't be able to get a driver to bring you to the locations. It's only for the Dublin city location. So what to expect when you arrive at Dublin Airport? I mean, the first thing when you go through the airport is you'll have to go through immigration. So as a student, you may be asked by the immigration officer at the airport to provide a letter. You'll be asked why you're traveling to Ireland, and you will be asked, if you're a student, you may be asked for an offer letter or proof that you're going to be a student from NCI. So it's important that you carry the documents in your hand luggage. So in your NCI offer letter or acceptance letter, your medical insurance, we'll talk a bit about that in another slide, and then your airport collection form. So you have the contact name and number of the driver who's actually going to meet you at the airport. So if you're delayed at immigration, it'd be great if you could let the driver know. Don't worry if you can't contact the driver, they will be waiting for you at the arrivals hall. So the immigration officer will stamp your passport, which gives you 90 days to obtain your student visa. So for students who need a visa to enter Ireland, whether you're from India or from China, that visa that you get is just to enter Ireland, and you still have to get your student visa when you arrive. Okay. So your medical insurance, as an international student, one of the requirements is that you have medical insurance to cover you from the time you arrive in Ireland, and it's really important that you buy that medical insurance. You have the option to buy the medical insurance from any provider, but it can prove very expensive. So there is a provider that a lot of the universities and colleges use in Ireland, who are called O'Driscoll O'Neill. So your offer letter actually has the information for that medical insurance. So you can actually go online and buy it directly for €120. Okay. So the summary of the cover that O'Driscoll O'Neill offer is that it's underwritten by ACE Europe. It covers you for medical insurance or medical cover. So if you need hospital cover when you're here in Ireland, there's illness for up to 2.5 million and a lump sum in certain circumstances. What it does not cover is any pre-existing illness or injuries prior to your arrival in Ireland. So one of the other things you should be considering before you arrive is what to bring with you. So when you're packing, you'll obviously have to take the weather into consideration. Now, I understand that some of you are coming from countries where you have temperatures of hot or hotter, so it'll be a bit of a shock to you when you arrive in Ireland to experience our weather, and you may not have the opportunity to buy the clothing that you might need from your home country. So it's important that you budget to buy clothing that you will need when you arrive in Ireland. Ireland is on the Atlantic Ocean. We're very much at the mercy of a lot of weather fronts that come in from the Atlantic Ocean. So you can experience 4 seasons in one day. The sun is shining now today, but it could be raining in a few hours' time. So you need to be prepared is the big message. Okay. When you're traveling to Ireland as well, you need to carry some euro with you, but we recommend that you don't carry too much cash, that you get access to a prepaid credit card or some credit in some way, because it's too dangerous to carry cash in large sums. If it's stolen or if you lose it, it's gone. Whereas if you have access to a credit card, it's a much safer way to travel with money. Also to remember about adapters that you might have for your device. So you're bringing your laptops with you, your mobile phones, your tablets. You will need to get adapters in order to use them here in Ireland. So when you arrive, as I said earlier, the NCI driver, whether it's Jake, Tony, or some of the other drivers, will meet you at the arrivals hall and bring you directly to your accommodation. We'll also give you a welcome pack, which will include a map of Dublin City, and it'll show you where NCI is on the map. And we'll give you a letter, the date and time for an appointment to meet with an international peer mentor here at the office in NCI. It's very important that you keep that appointment. If you cannot make it, you need to contact us so we can reschedule a date and time for you. Also, it's very important that you arrive on time as much as possible so that you can attend your registration and orientation before classes start. All of this means that you have, I suppose, gone through all of the necessary processes and procedures so that you can focus 100% on your studies. Really, at postgraduate level, when you arrive, and I'm sure Horacio can confirm that, straight away from day one, you are, working at breakneck speed. There's no easing into things. There's no, time to acclimatise or get ready. You will be working at 100% from day one. So to arrive early and to go through all of orientation and registration will just ensure that you are getting the best that you can in order to succeed at your studies here at NCI. Also, when you arrive, you should consider and make sure you contact families, let them know that you've arrived safely, because I'm sure they'll be worried about you.
1 second, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to jump in like this.
So if you have any questions?
1 second. I don't think anybody can see the presentation.
Okay, well, we can send it on to them afterwards. It's probably the easiest thing.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Because I think all these guys are writing that they can't see the presentation.
Okay. So again, we've got some questions here. So one of the questions is about the cost of accommodation. How much can you save by going out of the city, and what's the cost of transportation?
The general rule of thumb is, because NCI is located in the heart of the city, it's more expensive. So the further you go out of the city, the cheaper it is. So if you were to look at renting a 2-bedroom apartment here in the city, you'd be looking at between 1,200 and 1,400 euro a month in the Dublin 1 area.
And how many people would that sleep?
Up to 4 people, generally. And then if you were to move outside of the city, say to Dublin 20 or Dublin 24, that had access to good transport into the city, you'd be looking at 1,000 to 1,100 euro a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. But the money you'd probably be saving in rent, you'd then have to factor in the cost and the time for travelling into NCI. So a student monthly pass on our Lewis system, which is the tram, is 80 euro per month. And you'd be looking at about an hour travel time from, say, Dublin 20, Dublin 24 into the city, which is not too bad. It's a cold journey, but in winter or at night, it can feel, quite a long journey to take.
I know there's some, so Dublin 15 is, I suppose by road is quite far away, but there's some good train lines into quite close to Connolly Station nearby here, or Houston Station nearby here. So I know somebody who works in the college pays about €300 a month for people living in a two-bed apartment, and the commute is about 15 or 20 minutes. So I think the short answer is that the sooner you get here, the quicker you'll find it easier to get accommodation, because a lot of people do come into Dublin in January. The earlier you can get your accommodation sorted, the quicker it is you can start focusing on your course. And I know a lot of people will have questions about jobs, but part-time and full-time, and we'll touch on those in a minute. But ultimately, to get a full-time job and to get a good full-time job at the end of the course, you need to have a good mark at the end of your course. So I think what I might do is ask Horacio to talk about maybe some of the success stories from the previous intakes for cloud and data in particular, and kind of, I suppose, what companies those students worked in, what jobs they did, and also what made those companies go for certain students. So, students there's some stories of students earning 55, 60,000 euros straight out of NCI. What's the difference between the student and the student that earns 30 to 35,000?
Good morning here in Dublin, and good afternoon for many of you who are in Asia or in other parts. I oversee I'm the head of the Cloud Competence Center, and I oversee the cloud and the data analytics programs. And as Sheila was pointed out at the beginning of her presentation, is the fact that one of the most important things is for you to arrive early, because the programs typically at level 9, at postgraduate level, are very intensive. Are programs that are 1 year, as many of you know, and you're expected to have traditionally 15 to 16 contact hours. Most of you will think that 15 hours is not much coming to class, but certainly you're expected to put at least twice the amount in independent study per week. So it means you should be studying 40 to 50 hours per week as a full-time student, right? So as an average, 8 hours every day, Monday to Saturday. So that will be a good track record. And what is the reward for that? I can quote a number of students who have gone that way and who have gone through the programs. And you can, in fact, check some of their videos online at the NCRL YouTube channel. I can give you the example of a student of mine, Brushali. She's from Maharashtra in India. She finished last year. She was one of the toppers in the class. And she's currently working as a cloud engineer for a major company, EMC, recently acquired by Dell, one of the major mergers in history. We have had another girl, Michelle, from Malaysia. She just graduated and secured one of the top software development jobs at NetScout, a very interesting global company. We have a number of other students working for indigenous companies. I can think of Suresh working for a company called Currency Fair, one of the fintech startups, one of the coolest companies. And I can go on and quote a number of students who have done that. The next question typically is, what about the salary? What I can tell you, because I wouldn't like to divulge the exact figures for any of the students, because I think that's part of the private, I can tell you that they easily could pay their tuition fees and living expenses in the first year working. So it was a simple reward. Those students who were successful and were top in the class are working very well. Another one, the first class student last year, Ariane Bansel, he's now an Oracle consultant. So very important. you have to dedicate yourselves to study. Try as much as possible not to go for a part-time job, certainly not in the first term, in the first semester. That would be January to April. And of course, engage with our career service to make sure you're aware of the career opportunities at time. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what. So there are rewards, there are very interesting jobs that are well paid in Ireland and that all students with or without experience with good marks have assured. And I talk, of course, of cloud computing and data analytics. We have even a student who went on to work for IBM in data analytics. That's another example of successful students. So that's a starting point, and just to give you an idea. But the important thing is to get good marks, and good marks are only attainable by studying and dedicating yourself 50 hours per week. So it's about hard work and lots of studying and lots of programming and books.
Short-term pain for long-term gain.
Exactly,
So
that's exactly the point.
We've just had a meeting with our careers service, and we have somebody dedicated person for international, and we were talking about the companies that we're talking to at the moment, and some of the success stories, in particular from cloud. One of the things that comes out every time is that students with the best grades get the best jobs. The students that get the best jobs not only have the best grades, but are the ones that worked hardest at the additional things that should be done. So their careers, their CV clinics, their LinkedIn profile, their interview preparation, and these are things that in a lot of other countries outside of, I suppose, Europe and America aren't as important. But in Ireland, the CV, your LinkedIn profile gets you through the door. Your grades on their own won't get you a job. It would be your grades and your interview skills. Do you fit into the company? So companies like Facebook and Google, they're not just looking for the best programmers or the best people with data analytics or management degrees. They're also looking for people that fit into their culture. So it's important that you spend time and put effort into developing your career and your employability. But ultimately, it has to be about your marks. If you don't get good grades, no matter how good you look in the suit or no matter how good your interview skills are, you won't get the job that you're looking for. There's another question here about the first couple of weeks of work. How difficult is it? Is there, I suppose, an embedding process in the course?
Yes, we ramp up very fast, but there is, of course, a process to adapt. We understand, as you may gather from my accent, I'm not Irish. I'm not originally a native speaker of English. The main thing that anyone learns when traveling and studying abroad is that it's not only about the language, it's also about the habits that you need to form when studying and interacting with people. So many students that come from other countries, including myself at some time, we sometimes don't understand that it's very important self-motivation and hard work. And the first couple of weeks, that's what we like to convey. That side of work and self-motivation. It's independent. We have a great library. We have a wireless Wi-Fi access in the whole campus. So there shouldn't be any impediment for you to be in contact. These days, you can be doing your assignments anywhere. You can be in Starbucks, you can be here, you can be anywhere. It's about getting into that habit of studying. And so the first 2 weeks are key, and arriving on time before the course starts allows you to actually adapt to the other side, to the social and to the living there. So it's even, I always say that it's like a freezer. When you install a freezer or a fridge, bring the freezer or the fridge into your home, but you don't plug it immediately. You leave it acclimatized to the room for a day, and then you do that. You have to do that with data centers and with computers as well, as you may know. So you have to wait for before you turn in the appliance. That's something that you do with students. You have to wait for a week of getting into Ireland, into enjoying Dublin.
Great, thanks. So we might hand over to Rita now. Rita, there's a couple of questions on students maybe or visas, or last minute payments and things like that. Can you talk us through cut-off dates and where we are on visas and any updates you can give us from the visa office in Delhi?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm really sorry, guys, that you could not see the presentation. Don't worry, I'll send you the presentation, each and every one of you individually. And I just answered this question. Jayesh has a question saying that mobile and laptops. Yeah, you have to bring your laptop, which is a i6 or i4 or i6. Yeah, we should be okay. And in regards to the dates, we will cut off our application dates on the 11th, and the last date that we have said for the visa office should be by 22nd, 23rd. You should have your visa file in the embassy, because there will be a break. The Christmas break is there, and the visa office is going to be closed for 5 days, starting from 24th till 30th. And I think they will also be closed on the 1st, and then there's a weekend. So you are practically looking at 22nd, 23rd. Your visa file should reach the embassy before that. And in regards to the visa questions that you might have, I can do a separate session with you, or your agents can help you out about the visa regulations and everything. But in terms of, there is a 3-week rule for the visa office. They will not even open any of your files if the file does not reach by 22nd. 18th is what we are asking all our students, as Sheila has said. If you can come in earlier, I know some of you have already received your visas. So if you want to come earlier, please do so. But let us know well in advance. So after this call, I'll also send you a form which mentions about the airport pickup. Once your ticket is done and once you've booked your temporary accommodation, please fill in the form and send it to us at least 5 days prior, at least. If you send it to us on a 24-hour basis or notice, we won't be able to arrange a driver for your pickup. So you have to send it to us 5 days prior to when you're coming. And also in terms of the course start dates and everything, we have a orientation session that Sheila has already sent to the email, and I've also sent another email to all of you about the orientation dates and everything. And please adhere to the orientations, because this year we will not have any extensions on anybody joining, any late joining. Will not entertain any late joinings, because you will miss out on a lot of coursework. So please keep 25th sacrosanct, so that you have to come by 18th at least. And in regards to your other questions in regards to the visas and everything, please let me know about any other, the fundings and the academics and everything. I'll be more than happy to take that forward.
Great, thanks, Richard. So there's a question, I know you touched on it briefly, is that devices, mobiles and laptops. And Horacio, you might go through what should they bring, what sort of spec does it need?
Exactly. For those of you who are enrolled in courses that they have a BYOD policy, that means bring your own device policy, you should have received in your offer letter the specs of the machine that you should bring. The machine should have an Intel compatible processor, an x86, typically an i5 or i7. That means a dual core or 4-core with 6 to 8 gigabytes of main memory and at least 100 gigabytes of disk. This machine across the world should cost in the order of 500 to 700 euros. Very important, guys. Do not try to save in a cheap machine and try to arrive and outsmart anyone, because that part, you can save it by booking your flight earlier, saving a couple of €100 or 300 euros, and having a much better laptop. You can buy the laptop once you arrive here, or back in India, or China, or anywhere you want. The only difference, as you know, we have 220 volts here. The only difference, 50 to 60 hertz. So it's literally the plug. The plug will be different. You can buy an adapter, and that's it. Any modern machine will get that. Do not save for that. In terms of mobiles, we don't require mobiles on any. You can bring your mobile here. You can do pay as you go, whatever you want. I'm sure some of you invest more in the mobile than in the laptop, but very important. Do not save in a cheap laptop, because I've seen tears rolling when you do.
So the important thing on mobile is that our peer mentors, when you meet them, can give you some advice on the best network to get for both in Ireland for cheap calls and cheap data, but also for ringing home. The most important thing to remember is that if you're bringing a smartphone, make sure it's unlocked, that it's not locked to any network, because you don't want to be trying to ring home to Vodafone, whatever provider in India you're using, and the phone is locked. It will end up costing you more in the long run. There's another question around, when do course tenures of January intake, will it end? Will graduation of same intake for the conferring ceremonies?
Well, the January course starts in January, the last week of January, around the third week of January. And you should be submitting your dissertation in the last week, the last working week of December. In fact, the January 2015 batch is submitting the dissertations next week. And they will be having their oral examinations, known as the first week of January. All that to say that you should be receiving the formal paperwork and everything around January and February. But we're expecting to have some kind of graduation March, April, for those of you who are graduating in that. That will be more the ceremony, but in terms of paperwork and all that, you should have that. That means your transcript and the ability. So I don't know if I have addressed the question, but that's, you will, there are clearly two batches, two cohorts, as we call them. The September, they graduate over the summer and they submit in the following September. And the January, which does it in January, and there are ceremonies for that. So expect to have that.
So just on that, just to clarify that there's a couple of students I know who are joining us for our management course in January. They take the summer off. So the data and cloud students do. Semester 1 ends around April. Semester 2 ends around August, September, and then they do their dissertation. For management, semester 1 ends around May. Semester 2 then picks up in September to December, and then they do a 3-month dissertation. So it's just important for the management students or HRM students as well to be aware of that subtle difference. That, you know, if you're doing a business master's, you take the summer off and you just stay on a little longer. If you're doing a computing master's, it's straight through. It's 12 months straight through.
Just to pick up there from where Horacio was talking about the graduation ceremony, you'll get all your paperwork with regards to getting your graduate visa around March time, but there's actually only one graduation ceremony a year, which is around November. So although you'll get your transcript and you can possibly get your actual parchment earlier, the actual ceremony is once a year in November.
Okay, so I think one of the things of the discussion here is that we're looking to do a graduation for January intakes, because sometimes, you know, students aren't staying in Dublin, they're getting jobs. So for instance, Apple have their headquarters in Ireland, about 2 hours outside of Dublin, 2.5 hours outside of Dublin. So sometimes it's not feasible for students. So one of the things we have committed to looking for this year is that we'd have a second graduation for students who are graduating. Sometimes students take delays in putting through their dissertation and things like that. So it's we will, by the time probably the end of the first semester, we should have a good idea on when that graduation will take place. There's another question there about things like toiletries, medicine, and clothes shops. So Sheila, would you touch on what can they bring? Are they allowed to bring in medicines? Do their overseas prescriptions, are they here? And how, where can they buy clothes, or what clothes should they, what clothes can't be bought here that they should bring with them?
With regards to clothes, everything can be bought here in Ireland, and actually the cost of them is quite reasonable. So if you're coming from a very hot country that you wouldn't have much access to winter clothing or rainwear that would be needed, you can actually buy it here in Ireland quite cheaply. So definitely budget for that to buy that here. Your airline is going to have restrictions around what you can bring with you. It's up to you. You can bring what you want with regards to, but you'll pay extra obviously for additional baggage. I'm not very good at packing myself, so I know there is that, suppose you will want to bring everything with you, but you'll have to consider you're going to be lugging that around with you. So you're going to be moving into temporary accommodation, and you might move accommodation a few times till you find permanent accommodation, and you may regret bringing so much with you. So just take that into consideration. With regards to medication, it's very important that you have details about what the medication is about and in English. There have been cases where students have brought medication from their home country that have been confiscated by immigration. One, they might not be available widely here, so medication that you can get in your home country may not actually be available in Ireland and may be confiscated. If it's not very clear what the medication is for, if it's in your own language, they may confiscate it also. When you're here in Ireland, you will have, if you have a need for medication, you should have prescriptions or letters from your professionals in your home country, again, written in English, so that you can attend a doctor here, and if they need, they can consult with your home doctor. You will, obviously as a first world country, you will have access to any medication that you might need.
Great. So there's two questions about jobs. First one I might ask, sorry Richard, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, actually, there are some things that you can't pack. You can't take any dairy products from India. So all your paneer, your milk should not be carried. If you are thinking of carrying some spices, you can. Now, I have heard a lot of students saying that they don't get mixer in Ireland. I don't know. I'm sure you get mixers in Ireland, and but you can buy it from Amazon. If you want to buy, get a small mixer for yourself, because I know Indian curry will need a lot of stuff to be mixed and all. So you can buy that. In regards to one more thing, in regards to food items, please do not carry pickles. Now, I hear this on all pre-departures. Can I carry a pickle? If the pickle spills over your clothes, you're done for that entire year.
Yes.
So do not carry these things. And any medicine that you bring, it has to be prescribed by the Indian doctor. And also, if in Ireland, you don't require to do X-ray or blood test before you come into Ireland. So because you buy a medical insurance, please buy the medical insurance before the visa file, because the embassy expresses, concern if your medical insurance is not attached with your visa file. So please buy that. It's mentioned in your offer letter, udon.ie. A lot of people ask about Bajaj Alliance or Aviva, especially in India. I'm saying we are not sure whether it will work in Ireland or not. So please go with whatever we are recommending. It's third party, it's 120 euros, simple online payment. So please buy that.
Great, thanks, Brendan. So just two questions on jobs. So again, anyone who's joined us late, you'll see there's a Q&A button over on the left-hand side of your screen. Any questions, just type them in and we'll quite happily answer them, or else come back to us later on email. As Rita said earlier, we'll send on the presentation because we know some people didn't see it. We'll send it on afterwards to everybody individually. So Jamil, I might just ask you, so Jamil is not only she head up our emerging markets and Ireland, she's also a graduate of NCI. Just a question there about part-time jobs. How much can somebody earn? How much can they work during their studies? And how easy is it to get a part-time job?
Sure. Sorry guys, you can't see me, but I'm here in the corner. Yeah, you can definitely work part-time if you're a student here in Ireland, and the minimum wage at the moment it's $8.65 per hour, but from January next year it's going to increase a little bit to €9.05, so it's gonna be €9.05 per hour. So I mean, on that basis, like if you work 20-hour a week, like I did most of the time while I was studying, undergraduate though, you'll get about 180 quid a week, which suffices for you to eat and travel a bit and buy stuff. But it won't be enough though for you to afford both your accommodation and your cost of living. So we always recommend that you get your accommodation you get it budget for, and but yeah, you can definitely work your way to cover your living expenses, and plenty of opportunities here in Ireland. You can easily get a job in a restaurant or in a pub, which will add a lot to your social skills, and you'll get to know people, maybe learn another language. So the careers office can help a lot in securing this kind of part-time positions. So
great, thanks. So the next question is about internships. Can we get internships with the health industry tie-ups with NCI? First of all, Rita, I might ask you just to touch a little bit on the differences between, because you've studied in the UK, so you understand kind of the European model, the differences between, say, the Western and the Eastern recruitment, and how placements work in Europe versus in the Asian markets.
Right, thanks. So, like most of our, at least India, I can say that most of our universities have certain thing called placement, wherein on one single day, your companies come in and take you by your hand. It's not going to happen in Ireland. This is, and not only in Ireland, I studied in UK, it did not happen. Nowhere in the West it happens like this. Also, you have to see that some of you will have an experience of 5 years, 6 years, and some of you will be fresher. So to do something like a placement is very difficult for the university or for the college, because you're not on the same plane, all of you are not on the same plane. Now, second thing is, how do we then support our students all through the year? So our careers services will help you all through the year, not only in placement season or this thing, The first 3 months, we definitely work really hard on your CV, on your personal development, on your covering letter, on your CV, on your LinkedIn profile, and everything. So don't come to Ireland and click and start sending your resumes, your Indian resumes, because what you will do is you will close doors on a lot of different companies. There isn't, like 25 million jobs out there as in India or in China it is. So don't send with your Indian profiles. Do proper CV workshops, covering letter workshops and everything. Then properly do your LinkedIn profiles. Then we do have certain opportunities for like internship opportunities within NCI, but it's not that, that NCI is going to feed you on with an internship. And there are students who go out there and look for their own internships. There are opportunities that our professors sometimes come up with internships. Our career services come up with internships. So it is not that, and during when we were sending emails and when we were meeting you, we never said that there's an internship attached to the course. That is something like a marketing gimmick, that if an internship is attached to the course, that we don't say. So internships will depend on your marks, how you perform in the class, how do you fare in your class and everything, and also how entrepreneurial you are, and to fetch your own internships. So it is like that, and thirdly, I think they will also help you out in your interview sessions. We call in companies. So during the course of the year, we do call in companies to do open days, open nights. So just to give you an example, just now I heard, the companies like EY, Bank of Ireland, Workday, Amazon visits our campus, and they do kind of presentations wherein students meet them and they interact with them. So all these will happen, but it's a way that you have to take a step forward, and NCI will also take a step forward. It cannot be one way traffic, that we have a kind of a this thing placement. I went to a university which was, just to give you the perspective, I went to a university which was top 50 ranked in the world, and it is still top 50 ranked. And we all check the rankings and everything. And I didn't have any luck. So there was no placement or anything like that. So when you are coming to this side of the world, please be prepared that you have to work hard towards getting a job. You have to imbibe the culture and everything, and also work hard academically. That goes without a saying. Okay? Have I answered the question?
On the positive side, I can assure, particularly for people studying cloud or data analytics, there is clearly a shortage of trained professionals in that. So good data scientists, good cloud engineers will fly off the window. I can tell you that now, at the moment, I have a request from a major company for 2 data scientists to be working for years with them. And for cloud engineers, I receive a similar request from, then again, a major company. And typically, it's, again, study, and have the good skills for interviewing. So, guys, as Saritra said, do not try to start sending CVs the moment you land. It's just, you're going to lose face and not land the job. You're going to lose your reputation before you gain it.
So I think one of the things that I suppose I'd like to assure students of is that there's lots of support here to make sure that you have the best chance of getting a job at the end of it. When you arrive, there's help with things like getting your graduate or getting your student visa, you need a thing called a PPS number, which is your tax number. We'll tell you all that. So I know just back from 2 weeks in India with a region, we did a lot of traveling, met a lot of students that are coming to us in January. And a lot of students seem to be very worried about all the things they think they have to do. We're here to guide you through it. So there's actually a lot less that you have to worry about. I mean, your biggest worry is get here on time, get somewhere to live, and start studying. The things around work, I mean, and preparing for what happens in 12 or 20 months' time, we can help you with. And there will be some induction sessions that we're going to set up with the Career Service to help you understand the difference between the European model and the Asian model, and why things like CVs and LinkedIn profiles and entry skills are very important. One of the things we're looking to put in place, because like Rita said, was that there's a lot of big companies that come in CI. If you look at Google Maps and you look at the map when you get the presentation from us, you'll see there's a lot of big companies around us. These companies come into us because they want trained staff. They want highly skilled employees. One of the things that we're looking to put in place is that we'll stop students meeting those companies until they've got their CV right, until they've got their LinkedIn profile right, until they've got some basic interview skills. Because what's happening is, and what we've learned is that students that don't do the groundwork on it will be a bit like, I know nothing about IT apart from how to turn on. I don't even know how to work Google Hangouts because I can't get my presentations working. But it would be like me trying to set up a mobile app or try and set up a data center without having the basic skills. And what's happening is that good students with no skills in CV or not CV, no skills in interview techniques and a bad LinkedIn profile are going up to meet companies who they should be getting the next stage of interview with, but the companies don't want to interview them because at the first hurdle, at the first step, they're falling down because the company will go look at their LinkedIn profile. And if their LinkedIn profile doesn't say the right things and use the right words, they're not interested. If they don't look terrible and they haven't put an effort into their appearance or how they answer questions, companies won't engage with them any further. So it's important from the student point of view that they do a lot of the groundwork. But again, we're here to help you on it. And I think that's really important to remember. There's another question here. Do January students have advantages like September intake guys for getting into sports teams, some societies, or any ambassador work or extracurricular activity? Jill, I think that's probably one for you. So it's a question on, do January students have advantages like September guys for getting into sports teams or some societies or any ambassador work, extracurricular activities?
Yeah, the sports activity, you can join societies. They'll have a sign-up day in semester 2. With regards to the club for sports around football or basketball, all of the teams would have been established in September, and they will be well into their leagues at that stage. So I'm not sure if there'll be an opportunity to join clubs at that stage. Certainly societies will be welcoming students. We have a photography society, we have the International Friendship Society, there's a business society, a fashion society. They'll all be welcoming new students arriving. From what I understand, there's still no cricket club signed up this year. So if you're into cricket and if you arrive in January and you can establish a team, then there's no reason why you can't set up a cricket club in January. And I believe you'll be coming into the season anyway at that stage over the summer, so it's a good opportunity for you. With regards to the student ambassadors, they're recruited by Enterprise Ireland in the September-October intake. So although you're arriving in January, you'll have the opportunity to apply for it in September, because it will be open to all students at that stage, so you won't be disadvantaged in any way with regards to that.
That's great, thanks. Then another question here, what are the benefits for students who already hold a bachelor's degree in terms of jobs and inside the campus? So certainly, I mean, in terms of getting a job, the base requirement is a bachelor's degree. So every student that comes here on a master's program, so our January intake is predominantly masters. There's some foundation students coming in on pre-masters or English language courses, and they will all be accepted on the basis of coming into a master's program, maybe starting in September or the following January. And all of those students will either have a bachelor's degree or a lot of work experience. So sometimes we use a thing called ORPEL, which recognises their learning through their previous work experience. I mean, it might be good, maybe, Horacio, if you could touch on, you know, where students, how do they stand out when they go for future jobs? And that's, you know, back to, if everybody has a degree and everybody has, what's the additional things that they need to be looking at to kind of put them ahead of the queue?
Guys, Ireland is one of the top developed countries in the world. As you may know, 2/3 of the population above 35 years has a first degree here, has gone to university. So having a first degree, it's the very least you have to start applying for jobs here. And having a master's will make you stand out, but not only the paper. It's we've been mentioning the LinkedIn profile, but for those of you who are into coding, you know something called GitHub. So you push your projects into GitHub, you open source them, employers, you link them to your profile, employers actually look for that, and then they use something called a whiteboard interview technique. That means you get questions on common sense. And sense sometimes is not that common, as you will know. So I'm just gonna put for those of you who are in India. So I would say, just out of curiosity, how many kilos of rice are sold every week in Bangalore? Can you give me an estimate, and what is the cost of them? How do you go around that? Very simple. You say, okay, Bangalore has around 10 million, around 10 million inhabitants. So given the fact that there is a standard distribution of the population, let's assume that every person consumes 100 grams or more than 100 grams per day. Children, of course, adults will consume more. So out of the 10 million in any given week, you may argue that everyone consumes about a kilo, any person in the population. So you will be looking at 10 million kilos of rice, and then at a cost of whatever rupees, you will be looking at a certain cost. And if I have to distribute that with how many trucks I need, so you would say, but why do I need that? Well, you have to come with good estimate and base your rationale on something that you understand. And as simple as that, that is sort of questions that people have received in famous Google interview or other multinationals, so more students have interviewed and successfully secured jobs. So do not worry. Having a bachelor's degree will be the first step. Having a good master's will be part of it. Having good coding experience and getting into grips with not only the language, but also the habits and the customs of the land. So don't worry. We're here to let you know what you need to know, but you have to be prepared to learn and study hard.
Yeah, and I think one of the last bits before we wrap up is that part of an international experience goes beyond what you learn in a class and how you study. Companies, like I said earlier, companies will want to see students who fit into their culture, not necessarily be the exact same as everybody else, but students who have an open mind, who can solve problems, who think a bit wider than just a very clear set of defined parameters. Companies like Microsoft, Facebook, Google, they'll look for people who think a bit differently and who use their knowledge to solve problems. And I think it's probably the big difference between the way NTI teaches and the way a lot of other colleges teach, is that we give you a lot of knowledge, but also we're trying to influence the way you think. But because companies are looking for people who've not just studied hard and got great grades, but also have done other things, I think it's important that you go out and see Dublin, you make friends, you start to experience a proper international. If you're just coming to NCI to study one course, you could probably do that in any classroom anywhere in the world. It's important. We'll give you support around jobs, we'll give you support around your education, around getting embedded into Dublin, but it's just as important that you go out and you enjoy it, that you see part of Dublin, that you properly live in it, that you don't just your Dublin experience isn't within a 5-minute walk of NCI. And that's what companies will ask you about. How did you find your time in Dublin? What did you see? What did you enjoy? What did you learn? And if you've said, look, all I did was I studied, in a lot of companies, it's not the type of person that they want to employ. They want somebody who's open to new experiences. So I think, it's a great time, whether you're coming for a year or 2 years. You should have fun, you should study hard, and you should put your head down. It's a year to really change the course of your future. But it is very important that you also enjoy the experience and you take on everything that it has to offer. There's a question here about can we pay part payments for second year of course fees?
In summary, in the words of David Guetta, you have to work hard and play hard.
So, sorry, there's just a question on second year course fees. Jamia, you deal with a lot of students who've been here for more than 1 year. You might explain a little bit about payment plans and why they're offered for students who are already based in Ireland.
Yeah, so guys, we do have a couple of payment plans in place for students who are based in Ireland, and generally it's just you would already have a bank account in Ireland. You already have either source of income or be well established in the country, and it's to be also equal to the payment plans that we offer Irish students who are also based in Ireland, of course. But the model that we have in case for postgraduate studies will be that this is the regular models now. So the first one will be that you would pay 20% of your full tuition fee to register in the course, and you would spread the remaining in 8 to 8 installments. Okay. The second one is that you would pay 50% of your tuition fees in the first semester and 50% in the second semester. Now, these are the two styles that we have of payment plans, and you have also the option of surely paying your full tuition fee. But all these payment plans will have to be approved by the registrar, so it's a case-by-case basis. But this will be what we have in offer.
So all of these, I mean, the one guide on payment plans is that number one, it's, as Jamil was saying, is that when you're here, we can do payment plans because you don't need your first visa. Your renewal visa is probably easier to get once you have an 80% attendance in your class. If you don't have 80% attendance in your classes, you're going to struggle to get a renewal visa, or certainly it makes it more difficult. But it's definitely easier to get that visa for the second year, which allows us then to offer payment plans.
Well, since you mentioned, Richard, it's just we have to let everybody know that are going for a payment plan or thinking about going, that there's always a risk that you won't get a full 1 year visa. Now, most of the cases, most of the students will get it, but the immigration offices here in Dublin are quite inconsistent. So you might get somebody that will give you a year visa, you might get somebody that will not. But this is just you'll understand a bit more of how it works once you get here. But we need to let people know that there is a risk that if they only pay 20% of tuition fee to register, the immigration officer may only give them a 20% visa, or a 6 months visa. Now, that's something that can happen. It doesn't happen often, but it's just to get you aware of it.
Exactly. Sheila,
there are questions here. Actually, there are some questions on this part. I can see that, and I'll ask. I'll just take one. Prakash Dumbre has asked a question that MSc in data analytics is subject to QQI validation. I think the brochure is not updated. It's not subject to QQI validation. It's validated by QQI, and don't worry about it. The second question is to Professor Horacio. What is the difference between a dissertation and a conference paper? I heard NCI is planning to introduce a conference paper presentation at the end of MSc Data Analytics program. Is it so? Thanks. So Horacio, can you just...
That's something about very good. Whoever has posed that question, that means that he's reading ahead. That's good. Pretty much is the format. We have at the moment, the dissertation is in the order of 15,000 words. And the new conference type of presentation, it's basically the format is about 8,000 to 9,000 words. Indeed, this is the very last term that we're going to have a dissertation. And the conference is just to make sure the students can express in a very, very good manner that. And also there is an implication. Some of the students, some of the Ariane and Rushali and Jitpal and Suresh have actually submitted their own dissertation to international conferences. They have been accepted. In fact, one of them, Jitpal Singh, got the top paper award in a conference, CISIS 2015 in Blumenau in Brazil. He got the top conference paper. Rushali got another one. So people can use their own dissertation and convert it into that. So the conference style paper is literally just format and will enable us hopefully to nurture more that. Ariane Banzer will you have received the news. He got as well accepted to PDP 2016 his dissertation. So that's pretty much it. So that's. And the other one, the QQI validation, as Aritra said, is apologies, it's a typo in That's the other store, and we have to disclose it, but it's clearly
And the last,
we have these.
sorry, the last question is for Sheila actually. The MSc in management course that I opted for, it's like the same question, Sheila. It's the MSc in management is over 20 months. So, some people, some students are getting confused over that, how the schedule runs. So can you just please elaborate to Desmond?
Sure. The students who arrive in January, their first semester is from the end of January till the May exams. The students then have a summer vacation, and then they take up another semester in September. And that semester goes from September through to December, January. And then the following January, they then start their dissertation. So it's a cohort that joins the existing group of students. And it's not from January through to December, similar to cloud and data. It's January to May, a summer off, and then September to the following May. So it kind of, I suppose, covers nearly 2 academic years, which is why it's over 20 months.
So Desmond, you will get your graduate visa from August 2017 onwards, once you finish the course. That was another part of the question.
The student, depending on when they submit their dissertation, generally the January cohort will submit their dissertation in August, at the same time as the students who started the previous September. And then they'll graduate in November. So they'll generally be on a student visa from January for 1 year. They'll then have to renew their student visa the following January for about 9 months. And then they'll get their graduate visa from the November time for 1 year.
Okay, right. Thanks, Sheila.
Okay.
There's the only question that I have. Thanks.
Great. There's a few questions here, so we're kind of running out of time, but we'll fly through them. I know Horacio had to go and teach a class, but if we can't answer them, what we can do is we can come back through Aritra and he can email the answers back to relevant students. How much cash should I carry in case of emergencies at the time of arrival?
The recommendation is to have access to money through a prepaid card system, whether that's Visa or MasterCard. Cash is dangerous to carry. If you lose it, it's gone. So the recommendation is to have, yes, some cash on you, maybe 100, 200 euro, but access, have a credit card that you can withdraw cash from anywhere when you need it. So we do not recommend that you carry large amounts of cash.
So for Indian students, at least, there are cards like SBI Global Yatra, SBI Vishwa Yatra cards, which you get. So your HDFC Vishwa Yatra, SBL Global Yatra cards, which you can borrow cash from a cash point also, if you have that kind of cash cards. And as Sheila said, that carry your Visa or Mastercards, credit cards. But if you want cash, you can get something like a Global Vishwa Yatra card, which is available in pretty much all the nationalized banks now.
Okay, thanks, Aritra. So sorry, what's the last date including results of the MSc Cloud Computing course since my visa expires on 22nd of January 2017?
Sorry,
so what's the last date? So when would they graduate? So the January intake, when do they, I suppose the question is, when can they then go for their graduate visa?
It's generally around March time. Horacio said earlier on in the meeting that you submit your dissertation the last week in December. You then go through certainly for MSc in Cloud and Data, a Viva, where you defend your dissertation in January time. So you get your results in February, end of February. So that's the time. So it's generally the end of February, March, when you go for your graduate visa in 2017.
Okay. Is €7,000 enough for living expenses for a student of moderate lifestyle? If there was more need, how much?
Well, I suppose like anything, depending on how you want to live, dictates the amount of money that you have access to. Coming from, I don't know, India, €7,000 might seem like a lot of money. I know a lot of students here would struggle paying for accommodation and food, but it's not impossible. It is certainly the recommended amount from a lot of sources, but it can range from €7,000, anything up to €11,000 that you'll need to have access to. I think a lot of students struggle when they arrive first, and it's natural really for any student and for anybody moving to another country. You spend a lot of money very quickly, whether that money is for paying for your accommodation, your first month's rent and a month's deposit, which is normal, whether that's paying for your student visa, which is €300, and your entry visa €100. It could be buying clothes that you haven't bought, or your laptop, or whatever it is that you might need immediately. You will find that you'll spend quite a chunk of money, and you need to budget to spend that money quickly, or within the first month or two. But €7,000, I would say, is the minimum that you need to have access to, and anything up to 11, 12, 13,000, depending on the lifestyle that you might want. Your idea of, everyone's idea of a lifestyle or a quiet lifestyle is very different. A basic student, you would need access to €7,000 at a minimum.
Great, thanks. And then I think last question, is there any attendance restrictions in the classes?
There's a minimum requirement. As an international student, you have an obligation when you get your student visa to have a minimum attendance of 80%. And really to succeed and to get the best marks and to have the opportunity to apply for the best jobs, you should be setting yourself a target of attending 100% of your classes and not thinking that 80%, but there's a minimum requirement of 80%.
Yeah, there's definitely, so I think that there's two things on that front. There's definitely a correlation between students who attend the most classes, get the best grades, and end up with the best job. And I think there's, I know we've said it, and each of us have said it at different times, about best grades get the best jobs, but there's no way of kind of circumventing that. The best grades are achieved by the students who attend the most, who work the hardest. That there's no shortcut to it. There's no way of bypassing it. We could line up 100 students outside my office here, and they'll all say the same thing. Best jobs are the best grades. The best grades are the ones who work the hardest. So trying to kind of hit just 80%, won't get you. It might mean that you have a better time, and it might mean that you can work 20 hours a week and you can have a good time when you're in Dublin. And it is important that you do enjoy your time in Dublin, but trying to cut back on courses leaves you open to, if you get sick for a couple of weeks and you can't attend classes, your attendance drops below 80%. And if you do need to extend your visa for any reason, you're then into problems. Or if you do need to go home or need a re-entry visa, there's lots of things like that where being just at 80% just causes you problems. That kind of leads into one final question, which is there an option to postpone or renew the expiry date, because the dissertation ends after the visa expiry date? So where I think this was the student that was asking about, where his current visa ends on mid-January, but his final dissertation will only be held, or his final graduation will only be held March.
You can only renew your visa for a maximum of 12 months in Ireland. So to answer the question, if the visa is due to be renewed in January, then the visa will be issued till January of the following year, 2017. You can get or request an extension for up to 3 months because you're waiting on your dissertation results. So yes, that is possible.
Okay, and I think that's all for now. I mean, I know there's been a lot of information. Hopefully you found it useful. We will send on the presentation. We're going to put it into a Dropbox, because there's some videos that I think would be good for you to see as well about Dublin and about Ireland. We look forward to seeing you in January. I think the most important thing is book your flights, get your visa, and get here as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Everything else we can help you with. So things like, a lot of the questions that were asked, we can help you with that as you're going through the process. There's lots of support here from Sheila, from myself. We've got 2 peer mentors. We're just in the process of recruiting a new one. We have one from China, and the new one will be from India. So I think it's quite, there's a lot that you need to do, but you kind of need to relax a bit and just not be over worried about what happens after you get here. Most important thing is getting here. There is one question which I'll handle, is that if our visa expires in January 2017, how are we supposed to work after the completion of our course? So I think
Your visa expires.
if the visa expires, I think once you graduate, you get a graduate visa for 12 months. That allows you to work full time. And in certain circumstances, and again, once you're here, we can go through it in more detail. There is an option to graduate at a postgraduate level, to get your graduate visa early, and then submit your dissertation after it. But again, the most important thing is getting here. So, there is options for, if your current visa ends, like Sheila said, you can extend it for 3 months. In some instances, in some circumstances, you can graduate with a postgraduate visa initially, or a postgraduate diploma initially, and then get your graduate visa, and then look to move across to a master's once you submit your dissertation. Peter, you want to come in there?
Yeah, I think what he's asking is, once you get, end your student visa, once you finish your student visa, you get your postgraduate visa. So your student visa is till 2017, and on successful completion of the student visa and of course the course, you get the graduate scheme visa. So that's where your post-study work or whatever it is. So I don't think there is anything to worry about, because that's like, if you can finish your masters, you automatically get a postgraduate or graduate scheme visa on a level 9 course. So don't worry about it. You will get the visa. Don't worry.
Thanks, very true. So again, I think there's lots of things, and there's everybody has a different situation, and everybody will get different start dates and end dates, or certainly end dates. The Irish government, just to sum up, the Irish government needs international students in highly skilled positions, in particular in computing, data analytics, cloud computing, to come into Ireland. We've got a lot of big companies here. Google are after buying a massive new building, because it's an old building that they're about to renovate, that they'll probably have 5,000 to 6,000 new employees going in there. Those employees won't come from Irish students, because there's not enough of them coming through at that highly skilled level. So as a result, the Irish government have set a system that's very fair and very flexible. So there's no hidden tricks to getting a graduate visa. There's no hidden tricks to extending your, it's a very fair system. If you attend your course, if you do well in it, you get a job, you get a visa. If you start trying to come in at 80% or 80%, you'll struggle to get an exit visa, struggle to get a graduate visa. There's lots of things like that you just need to be wary of. But ultimately, if you come here on time, get around running with your coursework, you have nothing to be worried about. So I think, there's lots of support that we can give you. Once you get here, once you see some of the support, I think your minds will all be put at ease. But certainly look forward to seeing you in a few weeks. Have a great Christmas period. The office here will be closed down on the 18th of January, but all of us will still be having access to emails sporadically throughout that time up until the 4th of January. And the 4th of January, we're back in. At that stage, hopefully most of you have got your visa, but certainly any questions in the meantime, come back to any one of us. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.